Mike Tyson breaks down in tears on live TV after an emotional letter from Ibrahim Traoré. Mike Tyson, once known as the fiercest boxer in the world, had spent most of his life in the spotlight. From the roaring crowds of Madison Square Garden to the flashing cameras of global media, Tyson's name was known everywhere. People admired him for his power, his skill, and his unmatched presence in the ring. But as the years passed, the world saw a different side of him, a side that was reflective, thoughtful, and deeply human. Outside the boxing world, Tyson had begun to explore life in ways he never had before. He traveled, he spoke to young athletes, and he shared lessons from his life, hoping others could learn from both his victories and mistakes. One quiet morning, as Tyson sat in his home surrounded by memories of his career championship belts, photographs with fans, and gloves from memorable fights, his assistant came into the room carrying a letter. The envelope was plain, but the name on it caught Tyson's eye. It was from someone he had never met before, Ibrahim Traoré. Tyson felt a spark of curiosity. Who was this person, and what could they possibly want to say to him? He took the envelope carefully, noticing the handwriting was neat and personal, not the hurried scrawl of a typical fan letter. Sitting in his favorite chair, Tyson paused for a moment before opening the letter. He could feel the weight of expectation, though he didn't know exactly why. Over the years, Tyson had received countless letters and messages from fans. Many were short, praising his boxing skills or asking for an autograph. Some letters were funny, others polite, but this one seemed different from the moment he held it. As he broke the seal, he noticed the first words of the letter were heartfelt and sincere. Even before reading further, Tyson felt that this was a message written with real care and thought. Ibrahim Traoré, a young man from a small town far away, had been following Tyson's career since childhood. In his letter, he shared pieces of his life that he had never shared publicly. He wrote about the struggles he faced, family hardships, moments of self-doubt, and times when he felt alone in the world. Traoré explained how Tyson's journey through life, his challenges, and his comebacks had given him strength. Each punch Tyson threw in the ring, each victory and defeat, had taught Traoré lessons about resilience, courage, and hope. The words on the paper were simple but full of meaning, painting a picture of a young life inspired and transformed by Tyson's example. As Tyson read, he felt something stirring inside him. It was a warmth, a deep connection that went beyond fame or reputation. He realized that for this young man, Tyson was not just a boxer but a symbol of perseverance. The letter described how Traoré had faced many challenges at school and in his neighborhood, moments where he felt he could not continue. But whenever he thought of Tyson and how he had fought through tough times, Traoré found a spark of hope. He described sitting alone, feeling tired of trying, and then remembering Tyson's stories of struggle and triumph. That memory gave him courage to keep moving forward, to fight his own battles in his own life. Tyson could feel his eyes starting to soften as he read more. It was not often that he received such honest and heartfelt words. Most letters focused on admiration for his strength, his fame, or his wealth. But this letter was different. It focused on something deeper: connection, empathy, and inspiration. Traoré was not asking for anything material, he was sharing his life, opening his heart to someone he had never met. Tyson realized how powerful it was that a single story, a single life lived authentically, could reach across the world and touch someone else so profoundly. The letter went on to describe moments where Traoré felt weak and unsure. There were times when he wanted to give up on his dreams, when he thought that no one would understand his struggles. But then, he would remember Tyson's resilience, his determination to rise above challenges no matter how tough the fight seemed. Traoré wrote about staying up late, reading articles about Tyson, watching old matches, and imagining what it must have been like to face fear, defeat, and criticism while continuing to fight. He said that Tyson's life story reminded him that even heroes have struggles, but it's the way they face them that matters. Reading these words, Tyson felt a wave of emotion he rarely experienced publicly. For most of his life, he had been the one giving inspiration, not receiving it. He was used to being admired, cheered, and respected. But here was someone who saw him as more than just a fighter, someone who felt a personal connection, someone who drew strength from his story. Tyson understood then that inspiration works both ways. By living authentically, by sharing his highs and lows openly, he had unknowingly become a beacon of hope for someone across the world. Tyson read the letter slowly, savoring each word. He noticed how Traoré had taken the time to write down his thoughts carefully. There was honesty in every sentence, emotion in every paragraph, and courage in every word. The young man's story was touching, not because it was extraordinary, but because it was real. Tyson could see himself in Traoré, the doubts, the fear, the need for encouragement. It reminded him of his younger days, when he, too, looked up to others for guidance, when he had to find his own strength in the midst of uncertainty. As Tyson finished reading, he sat quietly for a few moments, letting the words sink in. There was a sense of calm and reflection in the room. For a man who had spent decades in the intensity of the boxing world, moments like these were rare. It was not about punches, belts, or fame anymore. It was about human connection, understanding, and the power of sharing stories. Tyson realized that even though he and Traoré were from different worlds, different countries, and different experiences, they were connected through empathy, admiration, and the shared struggles of life. He looked at the envelope again and thought about how such a simple gesture, writing a letter, could carry so much meaning. In that moment, Tyson felt a responsibility, not as a celebrity, but as a person who had lived through hardships and success. He wanted to respond, to acknowledge Traoré's courage, and to let him know that his words mattered. Tyson felt that this interaction was more than just a fan letter. It was a bridge between two lives, a moment that could inspire both the giver and the receiver. With a deep breath, Tyson decided to take the next step. He would read the letter on live television, not because he wanted attention, but because he wanted to share the message with the world. There was something profoundly human about letting others see vulnerability, about showing that even someone who seemed invincible could be moved by the honesty of a young person's words. Tyson knew that this moment could encourage others to speak their hearts, to connect, and to find inspiration in unexpected places. As he prepared for the live reading, Tyson felt a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. He understood that what he was about to do went beyond an ordinary interview. It was a chance to honor someone's courage, to embrace vulnerability, and to demonstrate the power of empathy. Sitting with the letter in his hands, Tyson reflected on how far he had come in life, how many battles he had fought, and how many lessons he had learned. And he knew that this letter, simple as it seemed, might just create another moment of learning, connection, and inspiration for him and for the world. In that quiet room, with the sunlight streaming in and the letter resting gently in his hands, Mike Tyson felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a deep sense of human connection. It was a reminder that behind every fan, every admirer, every person who looked up to him, there were real lives, real stories, and real struggles. And sometimes, all it takes is one heartfelt message to touch a life forever, including his own. The day of the live interview arrived, and Mike Tyson was quietly preparing himself. Even though he was used to being in front of cameras, this moment felt different. Today, it wasn't about promoting a fight or talking about his past victories. Today, it was about something deeper, something personal. The letter from Ibrahim Traoré sat carefully on the table in front of him, its words still fresh in Tyson's mind. He had read it multiple times in private, and each time he felt the same stirring of emotion. Now, he was going to share that experience with the world. As the crew buzzed around the studio, checking lights, cameras, and microphones, Tyson sat calmly in his chair, letting himself focus. The host of the show was welcoming and cheerful, chatting about Tyson's recent projects, his work with young athletes, and his reflections on life after boxing. The conversation flowed naturally, and Tyson responded with his usual honesty, sharing small anecdotes from his life, some light-hearted and funny, others more reflective. He spoke about his training routines, the lessons he learned from his coaches, and the challenges of growing up in a world that often seemed too harsh for young men like him. Despite the casual start, Tyson felt a sense of anticipation building inside him. The letter from Traoré was the reason he was here, the reason this interview had taken on a special meaning. The host, noticing the slight tension and curiosity on Tyson's face, smiled and said, "Mike, we have something special for you today. There's a letter from one of your fans, and I think it's something you'll want to read." Tyson nodded, keeping his expression composed, though his heart began to beat a little faster. He reached for the envelope, feeling the weight of what was about to happen. The camera shifted to focus closely on Tyson as he carefully opened the envelope. The studio audience, sensing the importance of the moment, fell silent. Even the crew behind the camera seemed to pause, giving space for Tyson to engage with the letter. The first few lines made him pause for a moment, as if he needed time to let the words sink in. As he began to read aloud, his voice was steady at first, but gradually, it carried a warmth and sincerity that made the audience lean in closer. Traoré's words were simple but powerful. He described his own life with honesty, sharing moments of difficulty, loneliness, and self-doubt. He wrote about growing up in a small town with limited opportunities, about the challenges of school, and the struggles of finding his place in the world. He admitted times when he felt like giving up, times when he thought he might never succeed, and times when he felt completely alone. But then, he spoke about how Tyson's journey had inspired him. Watching Tyson overcome obstacles, face critics, and rise after defeats gave Traoré the courage to keep going. As Tyson continued to read, the emotion in the letter became palpable. The young fan wrote about sitting late at night, reading about Tyson's career, and imagining the courage it took to fight both in the ring and in life. He described how Tyson's story had become a source of strength for him during moments of fear and uncertainty. Traoré didn't just admire Tyson's victories, he admired his perseverance, his ability to keep moving forward despite setbacks, and the lessons he learned from his mistakes. The letter was filled with gratitude, hope, and admiration, but also with honesty and vulnerability that Tyson rarely saw in public messages. Tyson's eyes softened as he read further. The words were more than just praise, they were a bridge between two lives, two experiences separated by distance and circumstance but connected by shared struggles and inspiration. The audience watched silently, feeling the moment grow heavier with emotion. Many could see that Tyson was not simply reading a letter, he was experiencing it. His usual composure, the tough exterior that people had known for decades, was giving way to a more human, vulnerable side. There were pauses in Tyson's reading, moments when he had to take a breath and steady himself. He looked down at the letter, tracing some of the words with his finger as if to absorb the meaning more deeply. Each sentence seemed to carry a weight that resonated with him personally. Tyson understood what it meant to struggle, to face doubt, and to find the strength to rise again. He knew that Traoré's words were not just about admiration, they were about empathy, connection, and shared understanding. And in that quiet studio, with cameras capturing every detail, Tyson felt profoundly moved. After several minutes of reading, Tyson paused and looked up at the host and audience. There was a moment of stillness as he collected his thoughts. Then, in his soft but strong voice, he began to respond. He spoke about the bravery it took for Traoré to share his story, about how writing down one's struggles and hopes can be a powerful act of courage. He reflected on his own life, acknowledging that success and fame had never erased personal challenges, but that empathy, support, and the belief of others had helped him navigate difficult times. Tyson emphasized the importance of perseverance, of finding inner strength, and of staying true to oneself even when the world seems against you. The audience was captivated. It was rare to see Tyson speak so openly about emotion and vulnerability, especially in a public setting. His words were sincere, heartfelt, and relatable. He did not speak as a distant celebrity, he spoke as a person who had faced life's challenges, who had made mistakes, and who had learned valuable lessons along the way. Every word seemed to carry both wisdom and warmth, touching the hearts of those watching in the studio and at home. As Tyson finished reading the letter and responding, he took a moment to reflect on what had just happened. He thought about how a simple act, a young man sitting down to write a letter, could create such a powerful connection. He realized that inspiration is not one way, it flows both ways. While he had inspired Traoré, Traoré had inspired him in return. Tyson felt gratitude, humility, and a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that sharing this moment on live television could encourage others to express themselves, to connect with those they admired, and to recognize the strength that comes from empathy and understanding. After the segment ended, the audience erupted into applause. Many were moved to tears, feeling the authenticity of the moment. Social media began to buzz with clips and reactions, as people shared the story of Tyson reading a fan letter that had touched him so deeply. Commentators praised not just the letter or Tyson's reaction, but the larger message it carried about human connection, vulnerability, and inspiration. Tyson himself felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that something meaningful had been shared. Backstage, Tyson reflected on the experience in private. He thought about Traoré, about the courage it had taken to write the letter, and about the power of words to bridge gaps, heal wounds, and create understanding. For Tyson, it was a reminder that life is not just about fights, victories, or fame. It is about the relationships we build, the lives we touch, and the ways we connect with others. He knew that moments like these were rare, but they were some of the most important moments of all. In the following days, Tyson received messages from fans and viewers who were touched by the segment. Many shared their own stories of struggle and perseverance, inspired by the sincerity of the interaction. Tyson took time to respond when he could, continuing the cycle of connection and empathy that the letter had started. It became clear to him that the impact of Traoré's words went far beyond that single reading. It had started a chain of positivity, encouragement, and inspiration. Through it all, Tyson understood something fundamental: true strength is not only measured by victories or power, but also by the ability to feel, to connect, and to inspire. The letter had reminded him of the humanity in everyone, of the courage it takes to open up, and of the impact a simple gesture can have. In that live moment, Tyson shared more than a letter. He shared a lesson, a connection, and a reminder that even the strongest among us are touched by kindness, honesty, and empathy. And so, as the cameras turned off and the studio lights dimmed, Tyson held the letter carefully, knowing that its impact would stay with him forever. It was a moment that transcended fame, transcended boxing, and touched something deeply human, a reminder that stories, feelings, and courage connect people in ways nothing else can. As Mike Tyson continued reading the letter from Ibrahim Traoré, the atmosphere in the studio began to shift. It was no longer just an interview, it had become a deeply personal moment. Tyson, usually known for his tough exterior and intimidating presence, was now immersed in the emotions conveyed by Traoré's words. The letter spoke of struggles, fears, and moments of doubt that were all too familiar to anyone who had faced challenges in life. But what made it extraordinary was how genuine the young man's words were. Each sentence carried honesty, vulnerability, and the hope that Tyson's story had given him courage. Tyson read slowly, taking time to savor each word. Traoré described nights spent alone, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders, uncertain of his future, and unsure whether he could ever achieve his dreams. He admitted times when he felt defeated, when he wanted to give up entirely, and when he thought that no one could understand his struggles. These were not just ordinary fan words, they were raw, heartfelt expressions of a life striving for hope amidst adversity. As Tyson read them aloud, he could feel the young man's pain and determination intertwining, resonating deeply within him. The more Tyson read, the more the letter seemed to reach into his own experiences. He remembered moments in his life when he had faced similar doubts. The pressure of fame, the challenges of growing up in a tough neighborhood, the battles inside and outside the ring, all of it came rushing back. Tyson understood that Traoré's words were more than admiration, they were a reflection of trust. The young man was placing a piece of his life into Tyson's hands, and Tyson felt a profound responsibility to honor that trust. The audience sensed the gravity of the moment. Cameras captured Tyson's expressions, his eyes glistening, his voice trembling ever so slightly as he read the most emotional parts. Traoré's letter didn't just recount struggles, it told stories of triumph, too. He wrote about small victories, moments when he decided to get up despite failure, moments when he reached out to others, and times when he discovered his own inner strength. Every paragraph reinforced a central idea, that Tyson's life had taught him that resilience was possible, even in the face of hardship. Tyson could see the young man's admiration for the lessons learned through mistakes, setbacks, and persistence. The letter highlighted the fact that inspiration doesn't always come from perfection, it often comes from the courage to continue despite imperfection. As Tyson read, the tears that had been forming began to spill over. He tried to steady his voice, but the depth of emotion was undeniable. The studio audience watched quietly, captivated by the unusual sight of a man known for his fierce reputation showing vulnerability so openly. Tyson's hands gripped the letter tightly, and for a moment, he paused to breathe, trying to process the emotions that the young man's words had stirred in him. He realized that this letter was not only touching him emotionally, but it was also reminding him of his own journey, the victories, the failures, and the lessons that life had taught him along the way. The audience could sense Tyson's internal struggle, the effort to remain composed while being deeply moved. Many viewers noticed the subtle tremble in his voice, the way his eyes shone with unshed tears, and the moments when he paused to collect himself. The authenticity of the scene was striking. It was rare to see such raw emotion displayed so openly by someone who had spent decades projecting toughness and invincibility. Tyson's reaction reminded everyone that even those who seem strong on the outside experience vulnerability on the inside. Traoré's letter spoke about hope as well. It described moments when he had felt lost, but then remembered Tyson's determination, his ability to fight through adversity, and his courage in the face of fear. The young man wrote about how those memories encouraged him to persevere, to face his own obstacles with courage, and to believe that success was possible even in difficult circumstances. The words resonated with Tyson on a personal level. He understood the importance of hope, not as a distant concept, but as a lifeline that can inspire real change in someone's life. Reading the letter aloud, Tyson began to reflect on the impact of storytelling and shared experiences. He realized that his own struggles, mistakes, and achievements had become lessons for someone else, something he had never fully considered before. For a lifetime, he had fought to prove himself in the ring, to the world, and sometimes to himself. Yet, in this moment, he recognized that the lessons of his life had reached far beyond the ring. They had inspired courage and resilience in someone else. This realization brought a mixture of humility and pride, emotions Tyson rarely allowed himself to feel in public. The more Tyson read, the more the audience felt a connection to the moment. Viewers could sense the power of words, the human connection, and the transformative nature of sharing one's story. It wasn't just about admiration for a celebrity, it was about understanding, empathy, and the shared experience of struggle and growth. Traoré's words reminded Tyson, and everyone watching, that courage is not the absence of fear but the ability to continue despite it. The studio, usually filled with casual conversation and controlled energy, was now heavy with genuine emotion, silence, and respect. By the time Tyson reached the final paragraphs of the letter, his emotions were overwhelming. Traoré had written about gratitude for the lessons learned through observing Tyson's journey, and gratitude for the hope and courage that the stories had inspired. He spoke about wanting to make a positive impact in his own life and in the lives of others, using the lessons he had learned from Tyson as guidance. Tyson's voice broke as he read these final words. He felt a deep sense of connection and responsibility, understanding that the young man's trust in him was profound. For Tyson, the moment transcended fame, media, or performance. It was an intimate human connection, a reminder of the impact that one life can have on another. He thought about all the letters, messages, and gestures he had received over the years. Most were simple expressions of admiration, but Traoré's letter was different. It was a heartfelt story, filled with emotion, hope, and courage. Tyson realized that such moments are rare and precious, and that sharing them with the world could inspire others to open their hearts and connect more deeply with those around them. As he finished reading, Tyson paused, holding the letter close for a moment. He looked at the host and the audience, his eyes reflecting the mixture of emotion, gratitude, and understanding he felt. Then he spoke, his voice trembling but sincere. He thanked Traoré for his bravery in writing the letter, acknowledged the struggles the young man had faced, and praised the courage it took to express such honest feelings. Tyson shared a personal reflection, that life's challenges do not define a person, but how they respond to those challenges does. He encouraged everyone watching to embrace their own struggles with resilience and hope, and to find inspiration in unexpected places. The audience was moved to tears, some wiping their eyes as they watched the normally tough and guarded Tyson show vulnerability. Social media clips of the reading spread quickly, with viewers around the world commenting on the emotional depth of the moment. People were inspired not only by Traoré's courage but also by Tyson's openness, the way he allowed himself to feel and connect. It became clear that this letter had created a rare shared experience, one that bridged the gap between celebrity and fan, between struggle and resilience, and between human hearts across the world. After the reading, Tyson took a moment to reflect privately. He held the letter in his hands, considering how a single act of writing could create such a powerful emotional response. He thought about the journey that had led him here, the victories, defeats, lessons, and growth. He realized that this moment was not just about one letter, one young fan, or one interview. It was about the power of storytelling, the strength found in vulnerability, and the ways in which human connection can transform both the giver and the receiver. Tyson knew that this experience would stay with him forever. It reminded him that beyond the fame, fights, and public appearances, the most meaningful moments are often those that touch hearts, create empathy, and inspire courage. He understood that the young man's story, shared openly and honestly, had reminded him of his own humanity, and had connected him to a life he might never have known otherwise. The tears that had fallen were not a sign of weakness, they were a testament to the power of shared experience, compassion, and understanding. By the end of the segment, Tyson had shown the world a side of himself few had ever seen. His reaction to Traoré's letter was genuine, unguarded, and deeply moving. It reminded viewers that even the strongest people can be touched by emotion, that vulnerability is a strength, and that courage often lies in openness and empathy. The letter had created a moment of connection, inspiration, and reflection that extended far beyond the walls of the studio. Tyson had not only read a letter, he had shared a human experience with the world. After reading Ibrahim Traoré's heartfelt letter, Mike Tyson sat quietly for a moment, absorbing the depth of what he had just experienced. The studio was silent, the audience holding their breath, sensing that something profound had just happened. Tyson's usual confident and intimidating presence had softened into something far more human, someone open, reflective, and deeply moved. He realized that he was not only touched by Traoré's words, but also inspired by them. The young man's honesty, courage, and resilience had created a ripple effect, reaching across thousands of miles and connecting their lives in a way that fame and money never could. Tyson began to speak, his voice steady at first, but with emotion layered beneath every word. He thanked Traoré for taking the time to write the letter and for sharing his personal struggles so openly. Tyson acknowledged that it was not easy to put one's life into words, to reveal fears, doubts, and vulnerabilities, but that doing so was an act of bravery that could inspire others. "You don't know how powerful your words are," Tyson said, looking down at the letter in his hands. "You've shown courage, and that courage is something that can change your life and the lives of people around you." The audience listened intently as Tyson spoke about his own life, sharing reflections that he rarely revealed publicly. He spoke about his upbringing, the challenges he had faced in his early years, and the mistakes he had made along the way. He admitted that fame and success did not automatically make life easier, and that personal struggles often continued behind the public image. Tyson talked about the loneliness that can accompany a life in the spotlight, and the internal battles that every person faces, no matter how strong they appear on the outside. His words were honest, humble, and relatable, resonating deeply with those listening. Tyson emphasized the importance of perseverance. He spoke about his failures, both inside and outside the ring, and how each setback had taught him lessons about life, resilience, and self-discovery. "Life will knock you down," Tyson said, his voice soft but firm. "It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, or what you have. You will face struggles. But what matters is that you get back up. What matters is that you keep moving forward." These words, simple yet powerful, echoed the very message that Traoré had shared in his letter, reinforcing the idea that inspiration is a two-way street. Tyson had inspired Traoré, and now Traoré was inspiring Tyson in return. He then addressed the audience directly, connecting the personal story of Traoré to a universal message. Tyson encouraged viewers to embrace their own struggles, to recognize that challenges are part of life, and to find strength in vulnerability. He explained that asking for help, sharing feelings, and acknowledging one's fears are not signs of weakness but acts of courage. "You don't have to go through life alone," Tyson said. "There are people who care, people who understand, and people who can help you rise when you feel like you can't. Sometimes, it just takes sharing your story to make a difference for yourself and for others." Tyson's reflections also highlighted the importance of gratitude. He spoke about being grateful for the lessons learned through hardship, for the people who supported him, and for the experiences that shaped him. He acknowledged that life is not perfect and that mistakes are inevitable, but that each challenge is an opportunity to grow and to help others along the way. By sharing this perspective, Tyson created a moment of connection not only with Traoré but with every person watching, reminding them that resilience, hope, and empathy are qualities that can be cultivated by anyone. He then turned his attention to the impact of letters, communication, and personal connection. Tyson explained that simple acts, like writing a letter or sharing a story, have the power to transform lives. He described how Traoré's letter had moved him profoundly, inspiring him to reflect on his own journey and to consider the ways in which he could continue to make a positive impact on others. Tyson encouraged everyone to take the time to connect, to reach out to those who may be struggling, and to offer support and encouragement whenever possible. "Sometimes, a few words can change a life," Tyson said. "Never underestimate the power of what you share." Tyson also spoke about hope. He explained that hope is not a distant dream but a choice, a decision to keep moving forward even when circumstances seem impossible. He shared stories of times when he felt hopeless, when defeat seemed inevitable, and when he had to find strength from within to continue. By sharing these experiences, Tyson made the message of hope tangible, showing that it is something that can be cultivated even in the most challenging situations. He emphasized that everyone has the capacity for resilience and courage, and that inspiration can come from both giving and receiving support. Throughout his response, Tyson's emotions were clear but controlled. He did not shy away from vulnerability, instead, he embraced it, demonstrating that strength and sensitivity can coexist. The audience was captivated, not only by the content of his words but by the sincerity with which he spoke. Cameras captured his expressions, the gentle movements of his hands, the occasional glint of tears in his eyes, and the subtle shifts in his voice as he conveyed empathy and understanding. Every detail communicated authenticity and the depth of the connection he felt with Traoré and the audience. Tyson's reflections also included practical advice for facing life's challenges. He spoke about the importance of persistence, self-belief, and surrounding oneself with supportive people. He encouraged viewers to take small steps toward their goals, to learn from failures without fear, and to never underestimate their own strength. "You are stronger than you think," Tyson said. "Life will test you, but you have the power to rise. Keep going, keep learning, and keep believing in yourself." These words resonated not only with young viewers but with people of all ages, creating a universal message of empowerment and resilience. As Tyson continued, he shared personal anecdotes that illustrated the themes of courage and connection. He described moments when mentors, family members, and friends had guided him, encouraged him, and helped him see possibilities he might otherwise have missed. He spoke about the importance of paying those lessons forward, of using one's own experiences to inspire and uplift others. Tyson emphasized that life is not just about individual success, but about the impact one has on the lives of others through empathy, guidance, and support. He concluded his response with a heartfelt message to Traoré and to all viewers. Tyson acknowledged the courage it took to share one's story and expressed deep admiration for the young man's resilience. He encouraged everyone watching to embrace vulnerability, to share their experiences, and to find strength in both giving and receiving inspiration. Tyson's final words were warm, sincere, and uplifting, leaving the audience with a sense of hope and connection that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. After the segment ended, the response was immediate and widespread. Social media buzzed with clips of Tyson's reading and reflections, and viewers expressed admiration for the honesty and emotion he displayed. People from around the world shared their own stories, inspired by both Traoré's courage and Tyson's response. The interaction had created a ripple effect, spreading empathy, hope, and encouragement to countless individuals. Tyson recognized that this was more than a single moment on television, it was a demonstration of how human connection can transcend distance, culture, and circumstance. Backstage, Tyson reflected on the experience privately. He thought about the young man who had written the letter, about the power of words, and about the responsibility of those in the public eye to use their platform positively. Tyson realized that the moment had reinforced a truth he had always believed in, that everyone has the capacity to inspire and to be inspired, and that acts of courage, honesty, and empathy have the power to change lives. Holding the letter in his hands, Tyson felt gratitude, humility, and a renewed sense of purpose. In the days that followed, Tyson continued to reflect on the significance of the moment. He recognized that it had strengthened his desire to connect with others, to share his experiences, and to encourage resilience and hope in those who faced challenges. The interaction with Traoré had reminded him that life's greatest impact is often measured not by fame or achievement, but by the ways in which one touches the lives of others. Tyson felt inspired to continue sharing his story, mentoring young people, and using his platform to create meaningful connections. For the audience, Tyson's response had become more than a television moment, it had become a lesson in empathy, vulnerability, and human connection. Viewers were reminded that courage is not the absence of fear, that success is not the absence of struggle, and that every individual has the power to inspire and be inspired. Tyson's heartfelt reflections demonstrated that even someone who seems larger than life can be moved, affected, and transformed by genuine human connection. As Tyson returned home that evening, he placed Traoré's letter carefully on his desk. He thought about the young man's journey, about the courage it had taken to write the letter, and about the impact it had already created. Tyson felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had honored the letter with sincerity, empathy, and reflection. He realized that life is full of moments like these, moments that remind us of the power of kindness, connection, and inspiration. In the end, Tyson understood that the experience was a gift. It reminded him of his own humanity, of the lessons learned through struggle and perseverance, and of the importance of sharing those lessons with the world. The letter from Traoré had become more than a message from a fan, it had become a symbol of hope, courage, and the enduring impact of human connection. Tyson knew that this was a moment he would carry with him forever, a reminder that even the strongest individuals can be touched by honesty, empathy, and the simple act of sharing one's story. After the interview, the story of Mike Tyson reading Ibrahim Traoré's letter quickly spread across the world. Clips from the segment were shared on social media, with millions of people watching, commenting, and expressing their emotions. Viewers were touched by the sight of a man known for his strength and ferocity showing such genuine vulnerability. Tyson's reaction had struck a chord far beyond the usual fan base. It resonated with people of all ages, backgrounds, and experiences. His honesty and sincerity reminded everyone that even the strongest people can be moved by human connection. The public response was immediate and heartfelt. Fans posted messages of support for both Tyson and Traoré, praising the courage it took for the young man to write the letter and the courage Tyson showed in responding so openly. Many shared their own stories of struggle, explaining how the segment had inspired them to keep going, to be brave, and to reach out for support. It became clear that the impact of the letter had extended far beyond the studio. It had created a ripple effect, spreading hope and encouragement across the globe. Tyson himself noticed the messages flooding in, and he felt deeply grateful for the overwhelming positivity that the story had generated. In the days following the broadcast, Tyson reflected on the experience privately. He spent time rereading Traoré's letter, remembering the emotions it had stirred, and thinking about how one simple gesture could create such a profound connection. He realized that the moment was a reminder of the power of empathy, honesty, and human connection. It was not just about being a celebrity or a boxing champion, it was about using one's experiences to make a difference in the lives of others. Tyson understood that true influence comes not from fame or wealth, but from the ability to touch hearts and inspire hope. Tyson also thought about the young man who had written the letter. He wondered about Traoré's life, his dreams, and the challenges he continued to face. Tyson felt a strong sense of responsibility to encourage and support him, even from afar. He decided to reach out personally, sending a message of continued encouragement and hope. Tyson wanted Traoré to know that his story mattered, that his courage had made a difference, and that he had inspired someone the world had admired for decades. It was a reminder that small acts of honesty and bravery can create meaningful connections that last a lifetime. The experience also influenced Tyson's own perspective on life. He began to reflect more deeply on the importance of empathy, of understanding the struggles of others, and of using his platform for positive change. He realized that his life had always been public, that people had watched him fight, win, lose, and grow. But moments like these reminded him that the most meaningful impact comes from touching lives in ways that are authentic and heartfelt. Tyson began to consider ways he could continue sharing his story, mentoring young people, and encouraging others to persevere through life's challenges. Social media continued to buzz with reactions. People shared clips of Tyson reading the letter, his emotional response, and his heartfelt reflections afterward. Discussions appeared across platforms about vulnerability, courage, and the importance of empathy. Many commented on how the moment had inspired them to reach out to loved ones, to write letters of encouragement, or to support friends and family going through tough times. The story of Tyson and Traoré became more than a television segment, it became a symbol of hope, connection, and the power of honesty. Tyson received personal messages from other fans as well. Some shared their struggles with mental health, loneliness, or personal obstacles. They expressed gratitude for Tyson's honesty and for the example he had set by embracing vulnerability. Tyson took time to respond, offering words of encouragement and support, knowing that even small gestures could create a lasting impact. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, understanding that the lessons he had learned through life's challenges could be shared to inspire others, just as Traoré's words had inspired him. In addition to the fan reactions, media outlets covered the story extensively. Journalists wrote about the emotional moment, highlighting Tyson's vulnerability and his ability to connect with fans on a deeply human level. Commentators praised the interaction as a rare example of authentic emotion in a world often dominated by performance, celebrity, and spectacle. Interviews and articles emphasized that Tyson's response was not just about reacting to a letter, but about demonstrating the importance of empathy, courage, and shared humanity. Tyson also noticed how the experience had affected people beyond the immediate audience. Young athletes, struggling students, and others facing personal challenges shared that the story had inspired them to persevere. Teachers, counselors, and mentors reported using the clip as an example of resilience and hope, showing how even the strongest people can face emotion and vulnerability. The story had transcended entertainment, it had become an educational and inspirational tool, reaching people in ways Tyson had never imagined. The experience left Tyson with a sense of fulfillment that was different from any victory he had experienced in the ring. In boxing, triumph is measured by points, belts, and recognition. In life, however, fulfillment comes from connection, empathy, and the ability to inspire others. Tyson realized that the emotional response he had to Traoré's letter was one of the most meaningful moments of his life, not because of attention or praise, but because it reminded him of the impact human connection can have. The letter had reached him in a way that no championship belt ever could. Tyson also began to reflect on the lessons for himself. He understood that life is fragile and that every moment of connection matters. He thought about the power of listening, the importance of encouraging others, and the ways in which small acts of kindness and honesty can create ripples that extend far beyond what one might expect. He realized that vulnerability is not weakness, but strength, and that allowing oneself to feel and respond to emotion is a sign of courage. The experience deepened his understanding of what it means to be human. In private, Tyson wrote down his own reflections, thinking about how he could continue to use his life experiences to inspire and uplift others. He considered writing a letter back to Traoré personally, sharing his own lessons, struggles, and words of encouragement. Tyson felt that this exchange was more than just a one-time moment. It could be the beginning of a lasting connection, a way to continue inspiring hope, courage, and resilience. The young man's bravery in sharing his story had created an opportunity for Tyson to reflect, respond, and continue spreading positive influence. For Tyson, the experience became a reminder that everyone has the power to impact someone else's life. Whether through words, actions, or simple gestures, people can create meaningful connections that transcend distance and circumstance. He understood that inspiration is reciprocal. Just as he had inspired Traoré, Traoré had inspired him. The mutual exchange of courage and empathy reinforced the idea that human connection is one of the most powerful forces in the world. As the weeks went by, Tyson continued to reflect on the significance of the moment. He realized that this interaction had strengthened his sense of purpose, reminding him that life's greatest rewards often come from the ways we touch the lives of others. He thought about the young people he could mentor, the fans he could encourage, and the lessons he could share from his own life. The letter had not only impacted Tyson and Traoré but had inspired countless others, creating a ripple effect of hope, courage, and positivity. Tyson also shared the story with close friends and family, describing the emotions he had felt and the lessons he had learned. They discussed how remarkable it was that a single letter could create such a profound human connection. The experience reminded Tyson that life is about more than fame, money, or achievement. It is about empathy, understanding, and the ability to inspire others. He realized that moments like these are rare, precious, and transformative. In the end, Tyson understood that the letter from Ibrahim Traoré was more than just a message from a fan. It was a bridge between two lives, a source of inspiration, and a reminder of the power of honesty, vulnerability, and human connection. It showed him that even someone who seems invincible can be moved by the courage of another. And it reminded everyone watching that courage, hope, and empathy are qualities that anyone can embrace, regardless of age, background, or circumstance. The experience stayed with Tyson long after the cameras were turned off. He placed the letter carefully on his desk, a symbol of the moment that had touched him deeply. It reminded him that life's most meaningful moments often come from connection, understanding, and the willingness to share one's heart. Tyson knew that this story would continue to inspire him, Traoré, and countless others for years to come. It was a powerful reminder that even in a world filled with challenges and uncertainty, hope, courage, and human connection remain constant sources of strength. Through it all, Tyson carried a renewed sense of purpose. He continued to mentor young people, speak about resilience and courage, and use his platform to encourage others. The emotional exchange with Traoré had become a defining moment in his life, one that reminded him of the importance of empathy, vulnerability, and the power of sharing one's story. It was a lesson in humanity, a testament to the strength of connection, and a story that would inspire not only Tyson but generations of fans and followers around the world.